Hey folks, it's Abby, and last month in April I managed to read 35 books in 30 days. I still don't know how I did it. However, this then meant I had too many books to put in one video. So, last week's video is up here if you would like to go and see it. For some of the stats that I already did in part 1, so skip them using the time bar if you have seen that video. I listened to 46 hours of audiobooks and read 10,438 pages across 35 books. I managed it. I'm very pleased. My longest book was 497 pages, and that was To Hold the Bridge by Garth Nix, and my oldest book was from 1979, and that was I Like This Poem, edited by Kaye, Webb. Now to go into the genres. So I read 1 classic, 1 poetry collection, 1 romance, 5 non-fictions, 2 crimes, 2 memoirs, 2 horrors, 5 contemporaries, 7 sci-fi, and 9 fantasy books. Then for the nationality of the authors, I read from 12 American authors from the United States, 4 Canadian, 8 English authors, 2 Antiguan, 2 Japanese, 1 Swedish, 1 French, 1 Sri Lankan, 1 Emirati, 1 Ugandan, 1 Scots, and 1 Australian. Then for the format that I read the books in, so I read 1 book via mixed media, which was a mixture of reading it in paperback and also ebook. I read 3 books via ebook, 4 via audiobook, 9 unneatly stacked hardbacks, and 18 paperback books. That is a stack. And then for a statistic that I don't normally do, which is the size of the book, how many pages are in them. So I don't usually do this because it doesn't usually matter. I'll mention an extremely large or an extremely small book when I do the review, but obviously this month I was trying to read 30 books, so I was aiming to read the smallest books that I could, and I read bigger books than I expected. So if we go top down, books over 400 pages, there were 4 of them, which I think is pretty decent. Then books over 300 pages, precarious stack, there were 13 of these. Books over 200 pages, there were 11 of these. There were 6 books over 100 pages, and there was 1 book that was over 0 pages. This one is 50 pages. Don't get me wrong, they're not huge. But I still think that some of the books in the 300 are in the high 300s, a couple are in the low, but I've read quite a bit. It's time to tackle the second half of the pile. Let's dive in. We have I Like This Poem by Kaye, Webb. This was a reread for me. Enjoy the old post-it notes. I've had this book since I was about 8 years old, and it is intended for children. Here's a page. And the poems are split up into different age ranges, and I just read this for years and years and years, and it was a good one for one of the prompts for the Spring Readathon Challenge by What Victoria Reads, so I just thought I'd read it. I enjoyed it, I had a great time. There's not much to say about this one. Good collection of poems. Then Book Break sent me Trad Wife by Saara Langan, and this one I didn't love, unfortunately. So this is about a woman who is a journalist. She's going through a really tough time in the industry, and she ends up having the opportunity to go and do an in-person interview with a trad wife who is extremely popular online, and being able to essentially live her life for a little bit with her. But there's something weird and horrific and fantastical going on, and everything is not as it seems, and she gets drawn further and further into this. Unfortunately, I found it a little too predictable, and I feel like that could have been alleviated with more emphasis on the non-realism side of things, and instead it was very much a background. So I had hoped for more from this. It's interesting touching on the topic of trad wives. They're obviously very popular at the minute. There's more than 1 book called Trad Wife that's just came out, but unfortunately for me this one just didn't hit the way I wanted it to. It was fine. It's like a 2.5 out of 5. It was fine. On a much better level, a bigger picture by Vanessa and Nakate. This was gifted to me by the lovely Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe for one of my Around the World prompts. This is a Ugandan author, and this is a non-fiction all about her fighting for climate justice and the way that she is treated both at home by the regime that runs Uganda, but also when she then goes to these European Western countries and she gets cropped out and ignored because she's often the only black voice there. This was really, really interesting. I didn't know much about the climate crisis and how it was impacting Africa, because obviously everything focuses on the West in the West. And so I truthfully didn't know too much about it. I could guess some of it just from my past education and my knowledge, but it was really interesting to actually learn specific cases of how it was being impacted, but also how people are trying to fight the issue in Uganda and in other countries like it themselves, even though we in the West are causing the issues. So this was a really short read, but a very well written and really interesting one, and I'm so glad I get to add it to my shelves. Then I read the second book in the Feybound series, Cursebound by Saara El-Arifi. I thought this was the final book in a duology, and I was about halfway through it when I got the email from Goldsboro being like, do you want to get the third book in the matching edition? And I was like, the what? So clearly I pay attention to things. This series follows a woman who is able to use drum magic to fight in battles, and the drum is made of the skin of an obeah. I may be pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. And she ends up going off into the woods when she's being kicked out of the army, and she discovers that the obeahs are more than they seem and that there are fae living out in the woods. There's a lot of political intrigue, discussion of magic, discussion of interpersonal rivalries, there is romance, and this is just so much fun. I really love Saara El-Arifi's writing. I've loved everything I've read from them so far, so this was another great read. Then I read the fifth book in this series earlier in the month, so that was in video 1. Video 2 has Share of You, the 6th volume in the Tales of the City series by Armistead Maupin. This one I didn't like as much, unfortunately. So this one is all about essentially the breakdown of one of the long-standing relationships that is in this book. It was realistic, it was written very well, I think it was handled quite well. I just didn't enjoy it. Like I said before, this series is like a soap opera, and I don't like soap operas, and this is one of the reasons why. I don't like soap operas, but I love this series. I need to clarify that. But this one was like the episodes of soap operas that I don't enjoy. I just didn't enjoy the lack of communication and the way everything was just slowly falling apart. So whilst some people may love this one, it is my least favourite so far in the series. Hopefully it will be my least favourite, because I still gave it either 2.5 or 3 stars. Armistead Maupin is a fantastic writer, and like I said, it's written really well. And it's really realistic, but unfortunately I just didn't actively enjoy it. Then I read a romance. Who am I? This is A Princess in Theory by Alyssa. I do not think I will be reaching for any more romance books. I'm glad I tried this. So in this book, a young American woman is getting emails saying an African prince wants to marry you, and she's like, right, okay chief, sure, delete. He does, he's there, he wants her. She's actually estranged from that high up political family in this small African country, and it's about them then getting to know each other and going from there. I wanted more from this book, and that's not the book's fault, that's my fault. It is a romance. There was too much focus on the romance. I don't care about the romance. Once we hit like halfway, there was a lot more about the political intrigue in the prince's country and how there was going to be the impact on the politics of bringing a woman who had been estranged, essentially her parents were estranged and went off and lived in the States, and her coming back home and the political impact that has and how they tried to help improve the country. That bit I was here for, with the romance in between. I was loving it. The beginning bit where it's just two people falling in love, I did not care. So we've confirmed that whilst I can now manage a romantasy, etc., anything with romance in, don't like straight romance. There was nothing wrong with this book. It's written really well. It's just not the genre for me, and I've confirmed that now. So it's fine. Then I read Race to Death by Leigh Russell. This is not the sort of book I would usually pick up because the cover's dull. Realising that about myself. But this is a crime, a D.I. Ian Peterson murder investigation series. It's set in York. My brother-in-law has it personalised and signed, and he didn't want it, and his brother, my partner, didn't want it, so it has come to me to read. And it was really enjoyable actually to understand the streets that they're going down. I'm not really from anywhere, long story, but I grew up in Newcastle, and I actually grew up right like on the outskirts of the city. So even when books mention Newcastle, whilst I love it and it brings me so much joy, I don't know the city centre as well as some people, whereas we live quite central in York, and it's a much smaller city, so you go around it a lot more. And having them actually say street names that I understand, like there was one bit where I'm like, oh, that's literally there. It's over. If you've read this book, I'm doxing myself, but it's just over there. So that was mad to be able to figure out exactly where she was, and was really enjoyable. So I enjoyed that bit. And it was a well enough written, like, mystery, like, detective mystery. I enjoyed it. It's not something I would, like, highly recommend unless you live in York, because that aspect was really fun if you don't read much from here. But it was written perfectly well. I enjoyed it. I read it really quickly. It was a good book. Then for one I loved, Intrigues by Mercedes Lackey. This is the second book in the Collegium Chronicles in the Valdemar world, and this series follows Mags, and he starts off as a young enslaved boy in mines who's hand cutting gems out of rocks, and he is treated like scum and eventually gets saved by these magic people from this far off school, and he ends up with a talking horse that are called companions, and this talking horse teaches him more about what the rest of the world is, because he's been so cut off and so isolated, and teaches him, one, how to be normal, but two, also that he can help this world and he can actually do a lot of good. And that's book one. Book two, he's now more into this world. He is taken to a school, so he's learning more about this kind of connection that he has with the horse and about the world and all the education he missed out on as a youth. And it's very, very interesting. The magic is fascinating. I love the companions. This is so, so fun. I love this series. I'm so excited. I have Changes, the third book. I'm so excited to read it. It's just so enjoyable and so much, you just blast through it. Speaking of enjoyable, System Collapse by Martha Wells. This is the final Murderbot book that is currently out. I'm checking my shelves, yes. There is another one. My brain has went blank. I literally pre-ordered this yesterday as we're filming. But there's another one coming out, and then that is going to be the penultimate one, I think. So this is the 6th, 7th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this is the 7th book in the series. And we are following on from the events in Network Effect, and we're going from there in the story. This book follows Murderbot, which is a security unit that has hacked its governance module, and so is no longer controlled by the corporation, but instead of doing anything bad, it just watches soap operas and protects the idiot humans that it's been deployed with from getting themselves killed. Obviously there's a lot more to it. That's the very start of book one. In this one, in Network Effect, we are on a planet and we are interacting with the people who live on that planet to try and, again, keep everyone safe from a very different thing, but that's the vibe. I adore the Murderbot books so much. I love them. I have reread them multiple times. I'm excited to reread this one. It is just a beautiful series. Then The Valkyrie by Kate Heartfield. I have discovered that I am not the best with mythology books. I love the concept of them and I find them really interesting, but I never seem to sink into them. I think I did with Palace of Eros, and I think that's the only one. So I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if I'll find more, but this is still really well written and really interesting. I just don't love mythology books, unfortunately. This is, if you couldn't guess from the title, Norse mythology, and we are following a fallen Valkyrie who ends up on Earth many hundreds of years after she originally ascended to Valhalla. I say ascended, Odin stole her. She's obviously very well versed in war and ends up helping this kingdom, this city, fight off the attack from the empire that they are supposed to be a part of, but has turned against them. There is magic, there is learning about the gods and the mythology of the Norse, there is sapphic romance, and I just found this all really, really interesting, and I just couldn't sink into it, which was so annoying because I did with the embroidered book by the same author, which was much longer, and I adored that book. It's underrated. So I had high hopes for this one, and unfortunately it didn't quite reach them, but I did still really enjoy it. Then a book I struggled with at the beginning, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This, translated from Swedish, is a very interesting book. I should not have read the first 100 pages. I was feeling pretty depressed at the time when I picked up this book, just natural fluctuation, and this poor man at the start of the book, Ove, is there like, oh, I should just kill myself. I'm like, yeah man, just do it. Get on with it. I was like, yeah, this seems like a good solution for everyone. No. So that's interesting. Caitlin from Letters from Kimberly. Please stop recommending me very depressing contemporaries. This was a gift from her. We were going to buddy read it, and then she very inconveniently got pregnant. Clemmy, I love you, but how dare you? This book follows this man called Ove who is pretty much done with life, and it goes back and forth in different time periods, and it shows you his early life and where he was, how he came to be who he is today, but also shows you interacting with his community very grudgingly. And it is such a sweet ending for the book, and is just so thoughtful and community driven, and I really liked it. I struggled with the beginning, really struggled with the beginning. I did not want to read it, but once I finally got into it, I loved this book. It's a 3.75, maybe a 4. I really liked this book. Then for a stupid one, which was so much fun, The Vampire Knitting Club by Nancy Warren. This was another one gifted to me by my lovely uncle, and this is a young woman who is half American, half British, but was raised in America, and she ends up going to visit her grand's knitting shop in Oxford, but her grand's passed away and no one had been able to get in contact with her or her parents because they were on a digging expedition in Cairo. She then ends up taking over the shop and starting to run it. However, it turns out that her grand is not so dead. This is so silly, so fun. I don't plan on buying any more of the books, but if they had them in my library, I would pick them up. It's a really quick read, really fun, really silly. There's some drama, there's some fantasy with the vampires, it's well written as well, I will say this. So the author, I believe, is Canadian, and they must have spent some time in the UK because there's just some little things that they wouldn't have gotten. So, like, it's so stupid, but the attic. Our character, like I said, grew up in America, and so she goes into the attic and she's like, what the fuck is this? Like an attic, this is nothing like an American loft. And if you don't know, if you're not British, our attics, we have, some of them are converted, but the standard one is there's a hole in the ceiling and we get ladders installed in there. You pull down the hatch, you pull down the ladder that you've had installed, and you go up and you're in the roof. Like, you are in the roof, you can see the struts, the beams of the roof. You have insulation there, and some people put down hardwood floor to be able to store stuff in. And the character was so shocked at this because it's so different to however Americans make their loft spaces. And I was like, okay, this author has been in Britain for at least a few months. So it was really well done and grasped those differences really well, which was fun because I was expecting the whole time to be like, oh, it's gonna do something stupid. And no, it was brilliant every single time. So yeah, a really fun book. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I won't be buying any more, but if my library has them in. Then I read The Diary of a Bookseller by Shaun Bythell. This is set in Wigton, and this is a non-fiction, I should say. It's set in Wigton. Yeah, it's based in Wigton. So this is what it says on the tin. He runs a second-hand bookshop, the biggest one in Scotland, called The Bookshop, based in Wigton in Dumfries and Galloway in southwest Scotland. Dumfries and Galloway is the county that my mum comes from, the one that she was born in and raised in, and that we go back and visit all the time. And I have been to Wigton and to the area around it, and it was so fun having them reference these places that are never talked about. Dumfries and Galloway is one of the least known counties in Scotland, and it's very rural. There is not a single city in the county. Dumfries is the big conglomeration, it's just a town. So yeah, not many people know much about the area, and getting to see it in a book was so much fun. And all these references, and then he's talking about old farmers and old farmhands that he's talking to, and it's exactly like my grandpa. So for a very personal reason I loved this, but it was also just fun. He's running a second-hand bookshop and you get nonsense. You get people trying to barter down the prices far much lower than they should be trying to go. You get people who are selling their books and they think it's going to be worth so much more, and you have just so many fun interactions. I worked in a bookshop for a short period when I was 17, and I had a few of these, but it seems like second-hand bookshops are a lot more wild, and the cast of characters that he works with are insane. I love them. This was so fun, and I actually missed it once I finished it. There is a second book, I do believe, and I finished this book. Obviously I was still reading. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more books to talk about. I was still reading at the end of the month, and I was like, I am sad that I've finished this book and there's not more entries to read of this man's little discussions of the bookshop. He talks about all the silly things that you would expect, but he also talks about the difficulties of running a bookshop and how it's changed over the years and how the internet has impacted it in some positive ways and quite a few negative ways. And it's just a really interesting read, and I'm gonna have to pick up the second one, but this first one is signed because I bought it in the shop. So I'm gonna have to go back and visit my family to go get the second one. I need it. So either that or Auntie Caroline, if you're watching. Could you grab a copy for me, please? Thanks. Very different vibe for the next book, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I finally read it. Oh, this took me far too long to get to. This was fantastic. This is a sci-fi dystopian where there's an area that is called Area X and people are not allowed in unless you're on certain expeditions. And these expeditions come in, and if the people come out, they come out very changed. And something weird is going on. The people who are going in are told they're being briefed about what they're going in to do, but they are not. They are being lied to, and we are discovering along with the character as we go through this book. This was amazing. I'm so intrigued about what's going to happen in the second book. I think it's Authority. There's Authority and Acceptance, so I assume it's in that order. And I am very, very curious to learn more about this world. This is just such a fascinating little book, and I understand why people love it. I need to read the other books. Then 3 Japanese short stories by Akutagawa and others. I kept this the whole time in case I needed an easy book to read, and I never needed it, but I did eventually read it. As stated, these are 3 short stories, originally written in Japanese and translated. We have Behind the Prison, Closet LLB and General Kim. And they are quite interesting stories. All of them are dumb men. No surprises there. But they were an interesting little read, and they are actually, this is like before they... Let me see. It says, these 3 short stories are from the forthcoming Penguin Book of Japanese Short Stories. And my parents actually gifted that to my partner, so I'm very tempted to steal it from his shelves now and give it a shot myself. Oh, okay. This is one of my 5-star reads of the month. I, Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This was gifted to me by the wonderful Eleanor from Eleanor Nickepater and is translated from the French. This book, I don't know what I expected. I went in pretty blind. This is not what I expected at all. It's an amazing discussion on humanity, on sexism, on authoritarianism, on confinement and on survival, and it doesn't go anywhere, but it does. So, deep underground, there are 39 women who live imprisoned in a cage. And there's a young girl, the 40th prisoner. She's not supposed to be there, it's all supposed to be women, but there's a girl there as well, and she's never known anything else. These other women lived a life before. They had husbands, they had partners, they had children, they went to school, they had jobs, they did homework, I meant housework, and this young girl was put in there at such a young age that she knows nothing. All of her education comes from these women who have given up on life because they've been trapped in this cage. They eventually escape, and it's her then being taught more about the world that she's missed out on by these women because they don't go back to the world. They are still separate from them. It is a fascinating book. I couldn't put it down. It entices a lot of deep thought. I cannot recommend it enough. This book is amazing. Thank you, Eleanor. My penultimate book is not Holy Island. I need to buy the copies of this series. I had been reading them by ebook because I was like, oh yeah, no, we love them, we need them. Me and the wonderful Kaye from Caring for Books are buddy reading this series, which is set in Northumberland, which is where I was raised. I said Newcastle. I told you I was on the edge of Newcastle. That's how far on the edge. I went to school in Northumberland. This series is set there. It's a DCI Ryan mystery series, and it is just so well written. There's so much intricacy throughout the books of like an overarching plot line. The characters are developed really well. We absolutely loved it. The book is actually here. It's Heavenfield is the 3rd one. We got so many answers and so many more questions in this book, and the book was exactly 30 chapters. So we read 1 chapter each and every day, and we were simultaneously very impatient because we wanted to know more of what was happening. We were actually kind of glad that it made us slow down reading only 1 chapter each day, because it made us focus on these events that otherwise we would have been like, okay, yep, that's happened, go, 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 there's so much going on. And instead we really thought about each individual instance, and it was fascinating, it was amazing. I love this series. I am going to be getting the physical copies. They will be read, don't you worry, because my dad read this one, that's why it's busted. He does not care about his books, but he will be getting the other 2 given to him, loaned to him, and then I will carry on reading the physical books. This series is just really engrossing, really fun, and me and Kaye are having a lovely time reading it together. And then the final book that I read this month, dear God, it took me a while to get here, and that is The White City by Roma Tan. And this is set in London, in a dystopian world where London has completely frozen over. And we are following a character both back in time to when she was younger and in the present day, the present day London is thawing, and back in time is before it froze over. And we are looking at extremism, about the overreaching of authority of the government, about the imprisonment of people and the poor treatment of them. This is a dark book. It was a really dark book to end the month on. It is a hard read. This is a story of human resilience in the face of environmental and social breakdown. So we're looking at regimes being destroyed in various different countries around the world. We are looking at people just simply struggling to survive. This was fascinating, really well written, very engrossing, and a difficult read, but one I would recommend. This was also, I believe, gifted to me, yes it was, by the lovely Olivia Savannah from Olivia Catastrophe, because this author is Sri Lankan, so this also adds to my Authors Around the World challenge. And that's it. That is all 35 books that I read, if you watched the previous video as well. Dear God. So, same as in the last video, if you have read any of these, please do leave comments down below because I want to talk about them. Obviously, I have 35 books floating around in my brain. I have not started reading properly in May because I still have these 35 books floating around. Every single plot point, story, informational tidbit that is from these 35 books, these over 10,000 pages, is floating in my head. So I would love to talk about them, so please put your comments down below. Let me know if you would ever try a 30 in 30. I think I did okay in trying to get the smallest books that I had, but this could be much easier if you reread childhood favourites. They would obviously be shorter and easier to read. If you do comics, they would be very helpful as well. So there would be a lot of ways of making this a bit more manageable, but I'm glad I did it, and I don't plan on doing it in this format ever again in my life. I am burnt out from reading. I'm burnt out from my favourite hobby. And I made far too big of a TBR for May. Like, it's not that big, especially considering I just read 35 books in a month, but I need to not read for a while, and I don't think I can do that with how many books I've put on this TBR. So, I will get to it, it will be fine. I do this to myself because I want to, so it's all good, but I am a little burnt out from reading now. At least I have a higher chance of getting my TBR under 100 books this year, now that I've read 35 of them. We can hope. Thank you so much for watching, folks, especially if you've gotten through all of this footage from all 35 fucking books. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope I will see you next week in what will be a much shorter video. Bye!